Today's agenda is about the Edge desktop browser. There is an Edge browser available for mobile devices. It works on a lot of platforms. We'll talk a little bit about what it works on. We're going to try and do some things to show you how to simplify and control your view. Edge sometimes gets criticized for having a lot of news in the view when you open up the browser, and I'll show you a simple setting for changing that. We'll take a look at some of the common icons and where you find them, and we'll take a look at the sidebar that exists, and then we'll open it up for any questions, okay? All right, so the Edge browser is built on top of what is called Chromium. Chromium is a software technology that was made by Google. They made it open source, and it was the foundation that the Chrome browser was built on. And so Edge is also built on the same technology as the Google Chrome browser. So a lot of add-ons, a lot of websites are very, very compatible between Edge and Chrome. You'll find that virtually everything that works with Chrome works with Edge. And so that was one of the things that Microsoft did as they changed their browser technology about 3 or 4 years ago. And it's really made it very useful. It's a widely used standard. Microsoft gets the benefit of Google enhancements, of other open source enhancements to Chromium, and Google gets the benefit of things that Microsoft invests in making Chromium a better web browser platform. You can't get Chromium as a browser by itself unless you're a software developer, but you can build on it. Anybody can get access to it for free. Google Chrome, as I mentioned, uses Chromium, and that has a lot to do with the compatibility between Edge and Google Chrome. And Edge is the default Windows browser. When you open up a Windows computer and your taskbar, you'll see a little Edge icon, but you can install virtually any other browser on Windows. You can also install Edge on Windows, in addition to Windows, Apple devices, Macs, iPhones, iPads, and also on Android. It works across all the platforms. Okay, Edge is a Microsoft product, and it's connected to Microsoft 365. Just in a very similar way, the way Google connects you with your Chrome browser to Google apps like Gmail, Edge connects you to Microsoft apps. But Edge is free, and there is a free version of some common apps from Microsoft, Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. But it does connect you with 365 apps through an app icon in the web browser and a sidebar that I'll show you when you navigate when using it. So if you're a 365 user, Edge has some extra tools in there that make it easy to access things that you might use in 365. And when you use Microsoft apps from Edge, it launches the web-based versions of the apps, but it is connected to OneDrive so that you'll see all of the things you've done in OneDrive from within the Edge browser. So for people that are using Microsoft apps, it does have some advantages because it's connected very closely with those Microsoft apps. And I'll show you the app icon and how to access it when we look at the Edge Live. There are some parts to the Edge browser that might be confusing to people, but I want to highlight some things. Where you find most of your icons and navigation and tools is in this area called the toolbar, and that's at the top of your Edge browser. And we'll take a look at some of those so you understand them. There's typically a standard home icon, a standard refresh, a search, a web address bar where you can enter things, and some other icons that we'll take a look at that are pretty standard across most web browsers. There's a favorites area where you can indicate websites that you want to be able to access quickly and bookmark. other things. Apple and Google call these things bookmarks, and Firefox, they're called bookmarks, but on Edge, they're called favorites. So there's just a little terminology change there in terms of what you might consider a bookmark in another web browser. There's a main view that has a lot of tools and areas, and we'll take a look at that. By default, it shows the weather, it shows some icons, it shows a little app icon here. There's a gear for settings you can manage and some other things. And I've blocked off this area. We're going to take a look at that. That'll be the news that we look at live when we take a look at that. And then there's this thing called the sidebar that exists on Edge that has some navigation tools that allow you to quickly search, access Copilot, access Microsoft apps, and you can even add with and customize this toolbar if you want to, the sidebar. So it's another feature that exists with using it. This bottom area here is the standard Windows taskbar that you would see on any Windows computer. Okay, so let's take a look. So on my Windows desktop, I have a tab open. This top section right here where it says Windows 11 is because I'm actually running Windows on a Mac computer, and I'm running Windows in a window on my Mac computer. But you won't see this on your computer. You would just see from this portion down to the taskbar here at the bottom. As you can see, here's some icons from what we call tabs. Here's the toolbar. Here are some of my favorites that I have. And then there's a bunch of stuff all over the place on this thing here. So it's a real challenge sometimes to get to all of this, but we'll try our best to understand what we get through in navigating. Now, one of the things that a lot of people find frustrating is when you use Google Chrome, you're basically given a fairly simple website with a search box on top of it. Microsoft Edge has decided to make their default a news page more than anything else. And there's a simple way to manage that. In this area here where it says full page, you can highlight that and you can change this to a partial view, or you can change it to just the headings. And you can really minimize a lot of this. This is a bunch of news that you can personalize on your web browser, but if you prefer a simpler view, you can minimize it just to the headings if you're interested. But the standard view will be this full page, and you can personalize this news so that you can look at topics that you want to see news from. Rather than you having to go search the web for these types of things, Microsoft feels as though it's a service to pull these things in, whether you're interested in money or other types of activities. It'll open up a new tab with information on that, no matter what you select. And you can refresh these stories. These are called stories, and they're just news that's pulled from the web automatically by Microsoft. But this little drop-down menu here really makes it easy to navigate and simplify it if you want to. Okay, so that's one thing that you can do with your Edge browser. There is a home screen button, that's standard navigation. There is a refresh button that refreshes whatever is on the web page, and that goes out to the internet and pulls things in new and refreshes whatever content you have there. There's a search box here. Now, when you type in something in search on Edge, it is using the Bing search engine from Microsoft. So I'm just going to open up a new tab here, and I'll search for, say, Apple WWDC, which is their Worldwide Developers Conference. And Basically, what it's doing is it's pulling up search results just like Chrome would, but Chrome's default search results are done with Google search, whereas Edge's default search results are done with Microsoft Bing. You can see that up here. And it'll bring up a Copilot search result automatically over here on the right. So you don't have to launch Copilot. It brings up Copilot search results automatically. And you know they're Copilot because of this Copilot icon right here that tells you it's a Copilot search result. So that's one of the tools of navigating around Edge that makes it easy to use when you use search, is that you're using Copilot search right away. Okay, so that's when you, other icons that exist, I'm going to go back to a blank tab, is there's a star here to add this page to favorites. There's a icon here for extensions. We had a tech topic all about web extensions. There's something called split screen. So let's say I want to look at Apple, it's a worldwide developer conference from, say, TechCrunch here, and I want to look at another website here like Bobology, and I want to look at both of them at the same time. One of the things you can do is you can open up another tab on your browser, but one thing you can do with Edge is it has this tool called split screen. And I'm able to have one website and another one open here at the same time and actually look at two websites without having to open up another version of my browser window or navigate to another tab. So it's really useful for doing comparison shopping, for example. If you want to compare, say, Target to Amazon or Walmart to Target, you could have both websites open and you can look at, navigate them just by switching your mouse and cursor back and forth between them. So it's one of the unique tools that is available in Bing. It's a tool that's kind of interesting to utilize. If you're just looking at two websites, it's really convenient to be able to do that. Another tool that you can use in Edge is you can go over to the favorites bar here, and this gives you the ability to navigate through other favorites and see what's in here. This bar along here, as I mentioned, is your favorites bar. You also have the ability to access other favorites if you want to, if you saved favorites. And you have some tools called collections. Collections are a way of collecting websites that you might want to visit frequently and as into a group. So it's another way of grouping websites in addition to using bookmarks and favorites. And then there are things like Browser Essentials here that gives you the ability to manage a few basics like safety, security, performance, and you have three dots always whenever you're looking at managing any kind of settings. The three dot symbol is become the most common navigation tool for accessing settings into any kind of application. It's used in Chrome, it's used in Apple, it's used in Google, it's used in mobile devices, Androids and iPhones. So whenever you see three dots, it's another way of saying there's more information available. And in this case, it gives you the ability to access settings if you want to be able to modify and customize them in any way you might want to do that. So I will look at settings in a few minutes if we have a chance or people are interested. Now on this front page here, there is a waffle icon. There is also one, if you're used to using Chrome, there's a waffle icon in Chrome, and it's called an app launcher icon. So if you launch the app launcher, you can get to your Microsoft 365 apps. And if you're logged into your account, it'll open up the application and what you've been working on right from here. So that's one of the handy things about Edge is it's got that app launcher. The app launcher also exists in this right-hand sidebar. This right-hand sidebar gives you the ability to launch anything from Microsoft 365 and gives you a really quick view of what you might be looking at. Here's my most recent presentations that I've been working on. It links to OneDrive. It lets you go to Word documents or Excel or even launch Teams. So you can get to Microsoft 365 easily from either the sidebar with the Microsoft 365 icon or from the Waffle tool. The start will take you to a new start page that shows you the discovery of all the news that you might be interested in Microsoft. I haven't found it that useful compared to just the standard Microsoft Edge default tab link that they have. Now, one of the things that's unique about Microsoft Edge is that it's got a connection to Copilot. And this is the Copilot icon right up here. So when you launch the Copilot icon, it opens up a navigation tool, and you can ask it questions or you can compose tools if you want to. This is chat and this is compose. So Microsoft Copilot gives you the ability to compose information as well as it. So if you're looking to write a letter, I can say, write a thank you for an invitation to a wedding letter. And I can make it casual and I can generate drafts right from within the Edge browser. It'll give me a preview and it gives me the ability to copy and paste it or do other things to modify it if I want to. And it's a really good tool, and it has some other things that it suggests that you may want to do it. So that compose function is for you to generate text, and it gives you the ability to generate email, generate ideas, or generate blog posts, whatever you're interested in doing. In addition to the chat is asking it anything relevant. So we can say, what is the difference between Edge and Chrome? And we can ask it to do that for us. And it'll give us a Copilot GPT powered search result that we can use. Carl uses this Edge a lot, in terms of getting features, and it has some suggestions of what it might give you. It also has a read aloud function that's one of the really useful functions within the Edge browser, and that you can let it read things aloud to you anytime you want to.
Certainly. Both Microsoft Edge and Chrome have their unique advantages and features. Here's a breakdown.
So it gives you some tools that are really great there. Of course, in settings, I want to show you, you've got the ability to get more tools. And one of the things in settings that you have the access to is you've got a lot of accessibility settings to make Microsoft Edge easier to use for people with vision or hearing or navigation tools. You can customize it. And you also have access to the ability to manage your privacy. They have some 3 very simple mechanisms where you can manage privacy, and you can manage your appearance and color scheme, and you can modify what's in the sidebar over here. If you don't want games, if you want other things there, you can modify them in a lot of different ways. So there's just a lot of resources and tools in the Edge browser that give you a tremendous capability to be able to access and use a lot of resources that you may or may not find. I've been using Edge more and more often for most of my browsing these days. I find it really very useful. Of course, I use Gmail, but I also use Microsoft 365 a lot. I also use Safari. So what I'm doing more and more is I'm using the web browser that tends to be most integrated with the applications that I'm using. And that seems to be my preference. I don't necessarily recommend it for other people, but I find that if you use a web browser that makes it easier to do things with whatever you work with most often, it tends to be the easiest tool to use. It's kind of like if you need a screwdriver or hammer or wrench, you just grab the tool that's the easiest to use for whatever the job is you need to use for it. So I'll take a break now and see if we've got any questions. I just wanted to basically give you a little introduction to navigating around Edge. I mean, I found using the Edge browser over the past, probably year, I tend to go to it more and more often over Chrome. But because I keep some things separate with Chrome and some things separate with Edge and some things separate with Safari, only because it's convenient for me to do it that way. I don't, always recommend people use multiple browsers, but there are times when it's convenient to do it. You'll oftentimes hear tech support people from a website saying, we prefer that you use Chrome. Our service works better in Chrome. It's because Chrome is still, the most popular web browser in use. I think the last number I read, and I may be wrong about this, but I read in the US it's used by about half of the population that uses a web browser. So there are support people that support websites or more familiar with how to help people navigate around Chrome. It's not because the website necessarily works any better in Chrome or not. It's just that they know how to they've tested it in Chrome. They may not have tested it with other browsers, but since Edge is built on Chromium, there's a really high degree of compatibility, and I haven't really run into any issues with any website not working on Edge that I've accessed through Chrome. Okay, now one of the nice little features about Chrome, I'm going to show, or about Edge rather, I'll show you one more thing here, is that moving a file from one device to another can sometimes be frustrating. On the sidebar, one of the tools here is called Drop. Drop gives you the ability to drag and drop or cut and paste something into your Edge browser, and it will synchronize with other devices in your Edge browser as well. So you can write a note to yourself, you can cut and paste, you can take a screenshot, you can drag an image in to this area called Drop. And when you click on the send icon here, it actually sends it to OneDrive, to a temporary space in OneDrive, and gives you the ability to access it through the drop function anywhere you have the Edge browser installed. So if you're trying to get a photo from one device to another or from one location to another, it's really, really convenient for doing. It's one of the little features they put in there. And then you've got this plus button here that allows you to customize things. You can actually put a Gmail login in the sidebar. You can put other things like WhatsApp on the sidebar, or Spotify or Amazon. They just have a lot of other tools that you can add to the sidebar, whatever is most effective for you whenever you might want to use it. So if you wanted to add your Amazon account to the sidebar, you can see how it puts it in the sidebar right here and gives you the ability to access it. And you can move these icons up and down to prioritize them in the sidebar as well. So it's another way of having things quickly accessible rather than looking at a bookmark or a favorite bar. Having the sidebar sometimes can be a little more convenient for you, because it doesn't always, when you watch something in the sidebar, it doesn't block off your main page. It opens up this sidebar area for you so you can actually view it almost like a split screen approach. So it's another tool they put in there. And Microsoft also has a shopping feature that gives you rewards. If you're shopping for something, if we do a search here for I was looking for a pet gate for with a door, it'll tell you and explore things, and it'll tell you what kinds of prices are discounted. So they made it really, really effective for shopping and shopping functionality that you might find interesting, and that they will also give you points for your Microsoft points that you might want to that you earn. At some point, you can redeem these points and rewards for different resources from Microsoft, like games or video downloads or other types of things that they make available. So they're just doing it to encourage people to use Microsoft Edge and Microsoft Bing Search for more common activities. So, I mean, what's happening now with browsers that's both good and bad is that we go to our web browsers so much on our computers, but the companies like Google and Mozilla that makes Firefox and Edge from Microsoft and Safari, they're sometimes making these browsers way too complicated if all you really want to do is browse the web and do a search, because they're making them an application that really is a one-stop shop for almost anything you might want to do. So that's both good and bad. Increasingly, we're using web versions of products as opposed to desktop versions of products. So in one sense, that's good. But these web browsers are getting a lot of functionality in them that make them more complex applications to begin with on top of it. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a little overview of what you can do with Edge. It's free download, try it out, see if you like it. But if you're already comfortable in using an existing browser, I don't know, other than the linkage with Office and Microsoft 365, I think that would be a reason to look at switching to Edge from another browser. But other than that, I wouldn't necessarily think there's a great deal of reason to switch over if you're comfortable and familiar with how your existing browser works and functions. Well, I pretty much covered what I wanted to cover today. I don't know if anybody else has any contributions or comments they want to make. Well, thank you everybody for coming today and joining me while I'm in Spain.